Hello, everyone, and welcome to Conversations with Friends. And I am so delighted today to introduce you to an old friend going back so many years that I can't even count how many years that I've known this person who is, in a world of a lot of influencers and people are, influencing everything. There are people who go way beyond influencing. They go on to become, or he has been actually, for a long time, for many, many years, one who just really impacts people's lives with his many books. I'm going to tell you about a few of his books. If you're on a spiritual path, you've probably heard of Jacob Lieberman, Dr. Jacob Lieberman, I should say, and his many books, or seen him on TED Talks or programs all over the world that he's been. And why? Because his ideas, his thoughts, his depth, his realizations, they really can open your eyes, right? And I just want to, and that's a good way of saying it because he was working as, for much of his life, as an optometrist, and he has a PhD. And again, Jacob Lieberman has written, I've got to read a few of the books, okay? Light, Medicine of the Future. Take off your glasses. This is another book. Take off your glasses and see a mind-body approach to expanding your eyesight and insight. Light, Medicine of the Future. And I think his last book, Jacob, you can correct me, is Luminous Light, How the Science of Light Unlocks the Art of Living. So, Jacob, it is just a pleasure to have you on the program. And again, I've been aware of you and known of you and your thoughts, your ideas, your writings, your speaking, which have truly, truly gone beyond just influencing people. They've gone to the point where people's lives are changed as a result of your thoughts, your depth, your everything. So it's good to have you on the program.
It's so sweet to see you after so many years. And, I want to share something. When we are touched by whatever that is in life that animates us and inspires us, something occurs and life starts living itself through us.
Mhm.
So, right now, your listeners may think that I'm speaking, but I'm not. Something is expressing itself through me, and I never know exactly what that is. So I am touched by it at the same time as perhaps someone else is. Number one. Number two, I remember when Einstein was once being interviewed by a journalist, and he said, Mr. Einstein, how did you discover the theory of relativity? And Einstein started laughing like hell. And he said, oh, that happened while I was playing violin. And the point that he was making is the creative insights don't come from us. They traverse the vessel of our humanity because life is needing that to fertilize something in the world. And so, we have been so trained that we're doing it, and I came up with the idea. But if you speak to anyone who has been blessed by one of these inspirational aha moments, came upon a new epiphany about something, they have no idea how it occurred. It happened in their sleep. It happened while they were sitting at a restaurant, and all of a sudden they started writing on a napkin. So I guess what I'm sharing is the magic is not in doing. It is the awareness that is curative. It's in noticing something that is totally different than anything we've been led to believe. I was trained both as an optometrist and a vision scientist. And of course, I was trained that the eyes are looking for things, what we want in the world, and so on. But the eyes are not designed to look, they're designed to see. And they only see what is looking for them. It's what catches the eye that causes the eye to move toward whatever it is, the light that catches the eye. And that moment where that connection is made is what we call presence. But there isn't someone being present, there's just presence, because the animating force of life, which is guiding every step of our existence, is guiding us on the next step of our journey so that we may fulfill our purpose for being. And so it's interesting, all the things one learns in a lifetime. I'll give you a little example. I was in California a couple of weeks ago, and I got a call from my sister that my brother-in-law had to go into hospice. And so I immediately got on a flight and was somewhere north of where you live, Boynton Beach. And we're at the hospital, and my brother-in-law is in a room under some sort of medication. And there's a family room where families meet and so on. And so I'm in the family room. Most of the people there are people in my family. And then they all leave, and I'm there by myself. And a couple minutes later, a half a dozen people that are obviously together come in. I have no idea who they are. And opposite me, maybe 15 feet away, there's a large gentleman. Maybe he's in his late 30s, has long hair and a beard, sitting next to a lady. And I'm sitting there, and all of a sudden, something enters my awareness. From where, I do not know. But what enters my awareness is a message for that man. I said, "Excuse me, I know we don't know each other, but something just came to me that I'm guided to share with you." And he looks at me like he has no idea what I'm talking about, which I could understand. And I said, "I don't know who you're visiting here, but the person wanted you to know that you have their heart." And this big man starts sobbing. And to the right of me, there was a lady sitting that I hadn't even noticed. And she said, "How did you know?" I said, "I don't know anything. I have no idea. It just came." The woman that's here was his grandmother, the closest person in his life. And all I could feel was so blessed to have been invited into that experience. How it occurs, don't ask me. I have no idea. However, I have those occurrences happening every day, multiple times, in so many different ways I cannot tell you. It may be sitting in a restaurant and a server is taking wonderful care of me, and I'm so touched that I get to sit down and someone is bringing me coffee or whatever I'm having, and they're just so impeccable in their work ethic. And I find myself calling them over, and aside from giving them a nice tip, I say, do you speak to your parents often? And he said, oh, yeah, I live with them. I
Mm,
said, beautiful.
mm.
I said, when you get home tonight, would you tell them something for me? Looks at me like not knowing what's going on.
Yeah.
Said, please let them know that you served a gentleman at the restaurant today,
Mm.
and he wanted you to let them know they had done a great job.
Beautiful. So beautiful.
Now, I
Oh.
don't know where, I don't know what formulates the words. I don't know how the process occurs, but for me, that is the real delightment.
Mm-hmm.
That is the moment
The gift.
where we're an instrument and we feel so touched and we become a contagious instrument
Mm.
of passing on that beautiful feeling. And each time I have those, I never forget them. I feel so deeply touched, and it's almost like life becomes the
Mm.
meditation.
Mm. Jacob, I don't want to interrupt you. It's so deep and powerful what you're saying. But my feeling is that somewhere in your life, much earlier, you said yes to helping others. Your heart, the soul, everything about you just said yes. That's what I'm here for. You've written a lot of very, very successful books, but that wasn't the end of it for you. You knew before even probably you wrote the books, right? You knew that you were here to just, to me, it serves like, connect with people, like
What
you
I
say,
love
whether
to
they're in a
do.
coffee shop or at a bus stop, wherever you happen to be, walking or are, that you said yes. Most people are so caught up in their lives that they're too busy, right? They're just too caught up and busy and looking at their list of what has to be done or what's going on in the world that they're not present. And I don't even know that you developed this. I think you were this at some point. Did you have a moment of realization, excuse me, in your life when you said yes to I'm here to, to give to the world, wherever they might be and whoever they are?
Moment is a realization. Every single moment. Number one.
Mhm.
Number two, I don't have a memory of something occurring because I made a choice. What I experienced is everything changing when there was no need to ever make a choice. You become choiceless because it isn't this or that.
Mhm.
It just is the way life and whatever the animating force is moving us. And I've enjoyed helping ever since I'm a little boy. And if there was a day when I felt like I got the Nobel Prize for that, was when my children, and now they are, my son will be 50 soon, and my daughter will be 51 soon. And when they were very, very young, maybe 3 or 4, my daughter would often call me mommy.
Interesting.
And
Mm.
for me, that was like getting the Nobel Prize.
Mm. Mm.
That was like, what could be more important
Mm.
than being a good parent? And so to this day, my son and daughter and I are inseparable.
Mm.
Um, it's it's always remained, and my joy is seeing that everything that I shared with them has become an integral part of their contribution to the world
Yeah.
as they're out there. Um, so, how did it occur? I have no idea, but to tell you where it's at right now, I'm working on a memoir. Well, I'm not working
Mm,
on it, but a
mm,
memoir is coming through,
mm.
and it's just things that have occurred in my life um, that have brought me to this place, and I don't know how it happens. And you mentioned something about presence. Prior to his death 5.5 years ago, Ram Dass and I
Nice.
uh, used to speak ongoingly for many, many years.
Mm,
And he was coming, he lived on Maui when he passed.
mhm,
But prior to that, he would come over often. And I'd heard that he was coming over. And so I called him and I spoke to these two ladies that would take care of him, and to let him know that I had a beautiful men's group here for many years, and I know he loves men's groups.
mhm.
And if he wanted to sit in, we could make that happen. And the lady said, well, he's had a stroke and he's in a wheelchair, and we're going to be staying at some hotel. I said, perfect. You let me know where you're staying. I'm sure they've already given you a room because it needs to be accessible to a wheelchair. I'll get a room for one night on the same floor in the same hotel. I'll come to the room at the time and bring him over and bring him back.
Mhm.
And so Ram Dass is sitting in with our group. And at a certain point, one of the members says, Ram Dass, can you talk about presence?
Mm.
And Ram Dass looks up and giggles for a second. He says, presence. Presence is like baklava. And Martin, the guy in the group, says, like baklava? He said, yes. Presence includes everything. It
Mm,
includes the phyllo dough, the nuts, the
mm,
honey. It includes everything, including the moments when you do not feel like you're being present. So, those of us that we say are not being present, I actually see it in a little different way. Presence, from my direct experience, doesn't come because of what we're doing. It occurs when what we've been doing our whole life dissolves. And all of a sudden, we start realizing that there's nothing for us to do for the most part. We came out of our mothers, we were in a bubble filled with water. The water breaks, we emerge from our mother's womb, and something magically starts breathing us, pumping our heart, regulating our blood pressure, our blood sugar, our hormones, lets us know when we need to eat, sleep, evacuate our bowels.
mhm,
And for our entire life, until the final breath, everything is taken care of. In fact, there's nothing physiologically that is designed for us to do. It's everything physiologically is responding to something that is touching it,
mm,
something that is guiding it. And so it's just so different than most everything we've heard.
mhm.
And even a term that's very common these days, mindfulness. And of
Right.
course,
The big word. Yeah.
when they speak of mindfulness, they're speaking of unfiltered awareness. But unfiltered awareness is not mindfulness, it's mindlessness.
Hmm.
And so it looks like something we do with the mind. And I guess the thing I'm attempting to share is presence awareness, awakening. These things are not anything that occurs because of something we are thinking about or initiating mentally. It's it's what occurred of 20 minutes ago when we came on the Zoom call, we saw each other's face, and it was like, ah, I'm home. And that to me
Yeah.
makes my day.
Me too. But we do have these moments. I mean, just from my own personal experience, you can be the therapist here. I was so caught up in my work with the media and my family. My daughter was little. I mean, I was just caught up in the next show and this and, my life, my husband. And I mean, I was trying to do good, I was, but it was really where somebody practically dragged me to the meditation center, the Brahma Kumari Center, and said, "We need to meditate." And I was like, I mean, I knew about this years before in college and, that kind of thing. And I think I was always searching, but I didn't know it. And I didn't think I needed anything. I thought that was what my life was all about. It was a good life, And it was only when I was, in the presence of somebody who was very, very wise, and she still is, and she gets wiser and wiser, did I realize that there was a whole other way to live that I had forgotten. Like it's almost like I had forgotten in my rush to, get everything done every day and accomplish a lot. And so I needed a wake up call. I mean, I guess you could call it a wake up call. I don't know what else to say about it, but I was,
I
you know,
I hear exactly what you're saying. That being caught up is what we have all been conditioned to become. It's the persona, the mask that we think is us, but it's not us. Our essence is what is peering through the mask. And, you mentioned meditation. When I was first introduced to meditation in 1971, for me, it was, oh, I'll be able to quiet the mind. I'll be able to find peace. And I soon realized that it worked well while I was meditating once I was able to drop in deeply enough. But then it disappeared the other 23 hours and 40 minutes. And so I then realized that the purpose of meditation was to realize that I was not the chattering mind. I was that which is aware of the chattering mind. In meditation, you close your eyes, you're breathing, you're using a mantra, whatever, and you're aware of all that noise. And for me, it was a wake up that, oh, I'm not that any more than I'm the TV that I'm watching, even though I'm affected by the content. So, yes, we have moments where life brings us to a meditation center, to meet someone who seems to be living um, in a state that isn't consumed with problems and solutions.
Yeah.
And all of that moves us. And that inspiration is what moves us on the search and so on. And yeah, that experience I think is universal. And thank God for that experience.
But people do come into our lives, and I think at the right moment. You're going along, you're doing this, like I said, taking care of your family, your career, and all of this, and it's almost like you get stopped, and you realize there's a whole other world, and sometimes it happens with something, very challenging. I was like picking up my car once, where you wait for your car when it's being repaired or whatever. And I was talking to a man who said that he was in a terrible accident, and I think he couldn't move for like a year or something. And I said, "Oh God, how did you live?" And how did he says, "Well, it was." He didn't use the word wake up call, but he said he was going through life and he was just plowing forward, not concerned about anything, but not just success, but the doing, like you're talking about. And he crashed into like the side of the road and broke bones in his body and all of this. And he said that was his wake up call, where he had
Yeah.
to change his life. So things do happen to us either to make us, they don't happen to us to make us suffer, I don't think, right? They, they,
I've had too many to remember.
yeah,
You
yeah.
know, I was just realizing it was 1978 or 79. I was practicing on Kendall Drive and
Mm,
107th
mm,
Avenue in Miami. Had a beautiful practice that I loved a lot. And all of a sudden, insurance introduced itself into healthcare.
mhm,
And something in me said, this is not good. This is a conflict of interest, I feel.
mm,
Healthcare, caring for people is about caring. It's not
mm,
about a business. And
mm,
I saw a lot of commercialism coming in.
mm,
And within 3 years of that, I knew I didn't want to do it any longer. And
mm,
so I remember it was a Friday night dinner at my parents' house. And all of a sudden, I share with everyone that I'm going to sell my practice.
mm.
My father says, "You're going to do what?" I said,
Oh,
"I've decided to sell my practice." He said, "But you spent so many years studying and getting
building it.
degrees and borrowing so much money to go through the medical training and so on." He says, "What are you going to do?" I said, "I've discovered some things that feel so important to me that I feel I must share them with a wider audience." And he looked at me and he said, "They're going to pay you for this?" And so
Mm,
it's interesting. Yes, I've had many, many of those moments. And thank God I was able to see them. And thank God I was able to have the direct experience where just the awareness was so profound that I had no choice. I must go in this direction.
You had to leave. You just had to leave. There was no choice. You were, on your way.
And, and it's happened in many, many different ways at many, many different times. And it's become the joy of my life. And it doesn't mean life is going to be perfect and you're never going to get sick again. And how did you create this reality? We have so many rhetorical statements that are empty on some level. Um, as the Buddha said, life is difficult.
Mm,
There's
mm,
so much that goes on that continues to allow you to see how you respond. And to come to, I mean, all my work these days is just helping people.
mm.
Uh, and it's mostly about their life. It isn't about their vision or fixing.
Beliefs, not their beliefs, and all that
I
stuff.
don't I don't feel like they need fixing. They just, we all need a hand to hold at different times of our life,
Yeah.
not because there's anything wrong with us,
Mm,
but because many aspects of life are difficult. So I look at it as a special friendship. We happen to have found ourselves on the same path at the same time. So we'll hold hands and have a nice conversation. And it's such a beautiful process, and many of these people become dear friends. We stay in touch for years and years and years, not because it's a financial thing, but because I'm so grateful each time I discover another person
Mm.
who is on a similar path.
Yeah.
And as you said in the beginning, so many of the people we know keep keep growing, keep expanding, and it's quite magnificent, especially being in the fourth quarter, the
Mhm.
quarter of acceptance.
A lot. Yeah.
So I'll be 78 in November, and it keeps expanding.
So you're kind of breaking all the rules, or not the rules, but the way most people think, say as you get older, you lose your purpose. I've been reading things that people have to find their purpose. But as you're saying, your purpose, if you're in the right place, the purpose just comes. You can't be looking for I mean, you're looking, but you're not looking.
The purpose has never been clearer. I
Yeah.
was recently contacted by an oncologist in Portugal
Hmm.
who puts together a yearly, very large conference. Thousands of doctors and people come on integrative and regenerative medicine.
Mm-hmm.
And she wanted me to do a keynote address. And I said, excuse me, but why are you asking me to do a keynote in a medical conference about integrative and regenerative medicine?
Mm-hmm.
She said, because I've been following you for years
Wow.
and
Mm.
you've never taken your eye off the North Star. And it was like, oh my God. And it's so
Oh,
sweet. It's so sweet
yeah.
for someone to recognize the value not of fixing, even though that's required at times, but the value of seeing something that is important to keep us on the path.
You're very lucky because I feel like you found this way of life earlier in life. But I don't think it's a matter of time. A person could be any age and have
Absolutely.
that. It's an awakening, really, of what's important in our lives and what gives us meaning. And it's, like not about the doing and the going and what trip a person's going to take or where they're going to eat out or, all of that, whatever people want to do. But it's the inner, I don't even want to say work because with you, I'm feeling it's not work at all. Am I right? It's just
It's
flow, a
so,
flow that you have of,
you know,
giving.
it's hugging
Oh, yeah.
when you feel.
Mm-hmm.
It's saying, I love you
Mm-hmm.
whenever that comes. It's saying thank you to everyone that enters your life and in some way serves you. Um, I never lose the opportunity. I'll tell you a very cute little story. It is short. I
Okay.
go to a coffee shop very near my home in Maui
Maui. Yeah.
every day at some point. About 4 months ago, I'm standing at the counter waiting to place my order. Something catches my eye. My head turns to the right, and I see a lady and a gentleman walking in. Perhaps they were husband and wife, and they both look like they were in their mid 80s. The gentleman goes and sits down behind me, and the lady comes right next to me and is looking in the pastry counter. And I see her looking, and I bend over and I said, which one are you looking at? And she says, that one. I said, great. And then the owner, Anthony, says, Jacob, happy to see you again. You want your regular 12 or 16 ounce? And he's, da, 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 da. Yes, Anthony, that's exactly what I'd like. And please slice a generous slice of that cake for this young lady. She,
Aw.
she says, you can't do that. And I said, you wouldn't take away my pleasure, would you? And she says, well, I wouldn't want to do that. And then she leans toward me. She says, but I'm married. And I smile and I lean down and I said, I'm married too, but I don't think this is cheating.
Love it.
Now,
Love this
it's a
story.
moment in time, and the husband's giving me this the thumbs up. I'll never forget that. It was
Mhm.
just a spontaneous little piece of magic that I don't think either one of us will ever forget, even though they were just visiting and we'll never see each other again, probably. Those moments are absolutely precious. You know, we think that if we're enlightened, we can levitate and we can do this and we can do. No, no, the important thing is to be a mensch,
Mhm.
to just the loving kindness, the appreciation, the humility. For me, that's the whole thing. It's not about being a rock star. It's just
Mhm.
about being, it's just about modeling what it means to be humane.
I can see why you are an inspiration to all who know you, and have the good fortune to have somehow, their life, even if a matter of seconds, a few minutes, in the coffee shop or whatever, have been affected by you and been inspired by you. Um, I think this is the time when this is what we need more than ever. Not so much talk, not so much trying to change people, especially those in our lives. And I know I've tried that, but then I realized it didn't work and it wasn't necessary because they all changed in
Right,
their time.
right, absolutely.
And to maybe just get rid of the stuff that pulls us down, the worrying about things, the insecurity about what's going to happen, or all of this is maybe just like when you feel it coming, just release it, right? What they say, release in peace, just release, the things that pull us and keep us away from that, like you're talking about, that joy. It's so simple, isn't it? I mean, it's so,
Well, you
yeah.
know, as a as someone who was a scientist at one time,
Hmm.
I discovered that when you're looking at biological function, chemistry, physics, all the sciences, the status quo must be disturbed
Hmm.
because before expansion occurs. Now, for those of us that aren't scientists,
Right.
we all have to wash our clothes,
Hmm.
but you can put the clothes in the wash. You can put in the detergent and the OxyClean or whatever you use. You can fill it up with water, but that doesn't clean the clothes. What causes it all to come out in the wash is the agitation.
Mm.
And so the stuff of life that we all want to get rid of
Hmm.
is what is disturbing something because something is expanding. And the agitation is an integral part of that, just like the grain of sand in the oyster is what creates the pearl. And so all of it is important. And one of the blessings is realizing that all of it is important. And then we begin to see that everyone is just precisely where they need to be.
Jacob, you are a true lighthouse, spreading light and love wherever you are, wherever you go. And what really touches me is that, people get inspired with your amazing books and your talks and all of the things that you do. But what I'm taking from this is it's just be love and be caring and just live a life like that. Say goodbye to worries and fears and desires that we don't, things that we don't need. And that's the true secret, isn't it?
You know, I don't know exactly what the secret is, but what I do know is that I'm experiencing it here with you. And we often say it takes two to tango.
Mm.
And so the blessing that occurs is when we come together and we have the feeling, thank God I'm home. So
Mhm.
thank you for inviting me to have this gorgeous, delicious conversation with you and reconnect and see your lovely poem. And you know,
Yeah.
if I was a child, what I'd be saying is, can we do it again?
Uh, yes, we'll have to do it again somehow, somewhere. I just being in your presence, I feel uplifted. I really do.
I feel the same way about you.
Yeah. Thank you. Wasn't I got to ask one more thing and then I will say goodbye. Wasn't the book, and I remember it had a big effect on me years ago, and I don't exactly remember what it was saying. It was what Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance, right? I think I was like in my early
Yeah,
20s.
yeah, it
Read
was.
it. But it was the person that was the wise, deep spiritual person was the guy that pumped the gas, right? That was really the message,
Right,
you know?
right.
He
Yeah,
was changing lives by his being. So we can all, we can all help change lives or influence
yeah,
people for the better and without trying to change anybody, just loving everybody and bringing
yeah,
peace.
yeah, yeah.
I'm so happy to get to see you again. Really.
I am
Wonderful.
delighted by
I
it.
feel so
I,
happy, just to be in your presence, really.
if I get to
Yes.
Florida, we'll have a little
Yes.
lunch or a coffee or a tea. It'll be blessing to see you. And thank you so much for everything you are sharing with so many people and have for 40, 50 years now that has really touched people and reminded them of what's out there that sometimes is just missed in the middle of all of the what's going on.
Mm,
So you are a wonderful source, and I am very, very, very grateful to know you.
thank you. I'm feeling very, very, very happy and fulfilled. And I know that anybody that is lucky enough to get to meet you or hear you speak or somewhere see you in the coffee shop, their life has been changed as a result. Thank you, Jacob.
Thank you so much.
And
Have a blessed day.
yes, you too. And I'm sure you enjoy every moment when you're in Maui too, your home. I'm sure that wasn't an
Yes, I
accident. You
can.
picked it for a reason to live in Maui with your wife. And I also want to thank Marianne Weiss, who's been our technical director, who has spent her entire life helping people through her social work, through her business that she's involved with now, with
Oh,
everything,
good.
her spiritual work that she does at Peace Village and everywhere else. And I'm just grateful for the people in my life, the beautiful people that come into my life. I really
Yeah,
am.
yeah.
And we always say goodbye like Om Shanti. We say hello, Om Shanti, I am peace. That's our
Om
mantra.
Shanti.
Om
We
Shanti.
are peace, and thank God for that.
Right. Thank you.
See you soon.